Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to General Lando 327 plays Final Fantasy XIII, Episode 2. Moving right along. So, we're gonna load here. Still in Chapter 1. I forgot about these loading screens. Yeah, stuff happened, etc., etc. Okay. So we've lost our healer. It's not very often that I get a preemptive strike loss here. I mean, I could have tried harder. We lost our healer. We don't have an automatic potion thrower, although we didn't really make use of it previously. You know, if I'd been smart, I would have taken out some of those flying guys instead of using all of this preemptive strike stagger period on the small fry. But whatever. Especially since I was just saying that we don't have a healer anymore, so I have to keep an eye on health. Like we do for Lightning and Saz. I have never actually gotten Godot down to 0 HP. I honestly don't know if he can die. It's interesting that even though his bar depletes, he's still green. We'll probably test it here. Let's find out. Oh, he's still attacking. So basically his bar doesn't really mean anything. If you were in more battles, I would care about that more. So these flying guys, this is another type of human enemy like I was talking about in the last video. So now we've got the generals, we've got the simple melee and the simple ranged fighters. That one, these are aerial units that they're specialized units that they typically do pretty high damage per second output. Did I do this again? Did I get the treasure chest back here? Yeah, I did. Yet again, I do things on autopilot. So anyway, they have pretty high damage output per attack, and the other thing is that they very commonly interrupt your actions, especially with their missile bursts. So usually when you see those are going to be one of the first things you want to try to take out, just for simplicity's sake. And
I want every weapon ready to fire. Stay sharp.
All right, on my go.
Right.
Go!
Yep, that's a great plan. Just let the other guy jump out and shoot things. Back to the more standard human targets. I mean, opponents. Probably be a little less chatty in this video than I was in the last one, just because there's less to discuss, except for actual story things that are going on. I think we might get to chapter 2 in this episode. Although there's a lot of cutscenes between here and there, so maybe not.
Where's the soul?
Okay. Hey, Godot.
Yeah?
If you don't know who you've got to save, you just protect them all, right?
Something on your mind? You got plenty of time for thinking on the way, hero.
Yeah.
See, that's one of those cutscenes that was overly long, in my opinion. Just that, you know, yeah, it had an interesting interaction there where Snow is finally beginning to question the way that he does things. But he's still more like questioning just, you know,
Don't shoot.
who are we supposed to save and that kind of thing, rather than really looking at what his part in causing the
Why do
problem
you
is.
care about kids?
Favor for a friend.
Okay.
Hey, Snow! You made it.
Hey.
Yo. So,
Hey.
you really managed to use that thing?
But other than that, that cutscene was a little pointless. Could have included that all in this cutscene very easily.
Didn't you have something to tell him?
Yeah,
All right then.
but
I'll go with you.
what?
You have no idea what it was like. Oh,
Everyone safe?
the army's no match for Nora.
I meant the kids.
All accounted for.
Okay. Let's keep it that way, all right? I'll swing by the vestige. Keep the kids out of trouble.
You got it. Say hi to the missus for me. You go skirt chasing, I take care of the kids. Some husband.
Dinner's on me.
Better be home cooking.
When's the wedding, lover boy?
Well, don't worry. None of you are invited.
We're still going.
Hey, you serious?
What about me?
Catch you later.
Oh.
Okay, so is there something behind me? No. Just go forward. So we're playing as a new character now. The son of that girl woman that mom that gets killed saving Snow. Well, sort of saving Snow. A lot of people don't like him,
You okay?
personality wise.
I want to tell him. It's just that.
Say, you know how to fly this?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. In you go.
Yeah, brilliant idea.
That way.
They have no idea what he's up to. Actually, we don't really know what he's up to at this point. But sure, let's go follow him. Instead of, staying with the people who were supposed to be protecting us.
Go in there.
Although, that was going really well too, so, I
You
guess.
can make us Lassie.
50-50 there.
This is. I don't think I can.
You can do it.
What are you two doing?
Here we go.
Yep, I know how to fly this, definitely. Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Get back here! You hear me? Hey!
Real confidence inspiring there.
The pulse Valsea. It held our future. And our fate.
So anyway, a lot of people don't like this kid. And I mean, they say that he's whiny and, spoiled and brat and, all of those things. Maybe not so much the brat part, but whiny and soft at least. But, beginning of the game he's supposed to be. he's definitely, he's there to emphasize the fact that this whole thing didn't just affect adults. It affected kids. And the redheaded girl, which apparently at this point we still don't have a name for, even though we know what it is. She's also, commonly placed in the kiddish role in this game as well, especially in a few chapters here when the group kind of splits up a little bit. But her backstory makes it pretty clear fairly early on that she is in
Even
no ways
soldiers
a kid.
know not to go near the foul sea. You become a pulse Lassie, and you're finished.
What do you mean, finished?
Haven't you heard, Miss...
Vanille.
There you go. Now we have a name. Vanille.
My name. And yours?
Hope?
And now we have his name. Good. That makes it so much easier than having to say her and him and,
What
I
were
can
we
be specific
thinking?
now.
Well, since we're here, let's look around.
So this whole Falsey and Lassie talk, obviously this is something that, those both especially Falsey was thrown around a lot in the first episode. I think this is actually the first mention of
Hey!
Lassie,
Vanille,
but you don't really know what they are yet.
Well,
that's...
So, for fans of the Final Fantasy series who aren't aware, Vanille uses this game's equivalent to staffs. And I like the fact that they gave Hope boomerangs, because that's just interesting. And here we see them doing basically no damage at all compared to what we were used to for damage output from our other characters. In case you can't figure it out just from that, they're going to be our casters. They are not going to be physically attacking, basically at all, for pretty much the entire storyline. Little bit, I have Vanille doing a little bit of the primary attacking role. Oh yeah. So we're probably not going to get to Chapter 2 tonight. I say tonight because it's night here. Who knows what time it is when you're watching this. We're probably not going to get to Chapter 2 during this episode. Simply because right here is one of the best early grinding areas in the game for a specific item. So I'm going to save it right here. In this game, we have some field items, items that are only used before you go into battle, that are used to throw some short-acting positive status effects on your party when you use them. The two primary ones are Fortisols and Aegisols. Fortisols give you offensive buffs, bravery, which ups your damage, your physical damage output, and faith, which upgrades your. And I just got a Fortisol. Perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. Faith does the same thing as bravery, just for your magic stat. And then the other one that it gives you is haste, which kind of like it sounds, it makes you go faster. So anybody who's played just about any Final Fantasy game is familiar with haste. Anybody who's played FF12 should immediately be familiar with bravery and faith. But the ones that we're going to be farming here for shouldn't take very long, just a few minutes. We need to get about 5 of the Fortisols, and they drop from these Pantheron enemies. So, the easiest way to do it that I've found is some people like to. I don't need to keep queuing up that many attacks. The easiest way to do it. Some people like to actually just save. It's actually a speedrunning technique that people who are trying to get through the storyline as quickly as possible will grind for about 7 to 10 of the things here. And usually what they'll do is, because they're looking at how fast can they do it, so they will. Oh, I actually did that wrong. So they will, if they don't get it in this first fight here, this fight, then they'll just reload from a save, and if they do get it, they'll just go right back to the save point and save again without doing the other 2 fights that I did there. The reason that I do all 3 of them is, number one, I don't care about my time. I did actually try to speedrun this game once. It's the only game I've ever tried to do as a speedrun. And I got quite a ways through it before I finally reached, hey, that's 2 Fortress Halls, like, back to back. This may go faster than I expected. Did I get one from the other fight, by chance? Inventory. So I have 2 already. I want to get 5. So they're usually a rarer drop than that. I think if I go all the way back here... ish. I think it might respawn that fight. I might be wrong though. No, it didn't respawn that fight. I don't think I want to go forward at this point. So at this point, I do need to save and reload to just kind of regenerate those 3 enemy combinations. So this is why it takes a little bit of time, and why speedrunners, if they don't get it from the first enemy there, that solo Pantheron, then they'll just reload from the save that they just made before they went into that. And then if they do get it, they'll just run back to the save point instead of fighting the other 2 groups there, and then save so that they can do the fight again. Save, load, and that fight respawns instead of having to go to the other side of the area like I did the first time. But the other reason that I do it, besides the fact that I'm not a speedrunner, is because the little droids in the other corner there, the ones that are hopping around, commonly will drop another kind of pre-battle item called a Decepticol. And what that one does is makes it so that in the majority of fights that you're going to face, non-boss fights, you can automatically get a preemptive strike without having to... Wow, that is 3 Fortress Halls. This is the fastest I've ever gotten them, folks. So, maybe we'll get lucky and I'll still be able to get through all this chapter tonight. But these guys drop the Decepticols so you can get a preemptive strike like I just did here by attacking it from the back. But you're guaranteed to get it even when the enemy is facing you, as long as it's not a boss. Or certain, major unique battles later. See, I just got a Decepticol from that. So I think that's 2 of those that I've gotten already. No, just 1. Usually I get a bunch more Decepticols than I do Fortress Halls. Hopefully I didn't just jinx it by bringing that up. Typically I can get about 7 to 8 Decepticols to 5 Fortress Halls here. And I did that one again. If I did it right, I would only fight the first Pantheron and then the Scandroid battle. And then run back to the other area. It will just respawn the single Pantheron fight. So I can fight that one again, come up here and fight the 2 Pantherons, and then do it again to get the single Pantheron to spawn one more time before I have to reload it. Save and reload. And again, for some reason, the 2 Pantheron fight is a harder drop to get the Fortress Hall than the 1 Pantherons. Now, just coming back to here, you can see that the red dot on the map for the enemy encounters on the mini map in the top right, that one respawned, so it's back again. That's what I mean by getting it to respawn just by moving away a little bit. Otherwise, you would have to go farther away and then come back to get it to respawn, which isn't a terrible thing in this area, but it's also not strictly necessary. Like I said, this is originally a speedrunning tactic. So the whole goal is to, wow, that is 4. One more and we will be set for the rest of the game. Alright. I may be low on Deceptisols, but those come easier and I use them less, so not a big deal. We don't get Aegisols for a little bit later. Beginning of chapter 3, we will get. We will do some farming for Aegisols, and those take a little bit more effort, at least usually. I say that, but this one is actually being very kind to me today. So one more time, and if we're lucky, one of the 4 fights that are possible to drop, and we'll get one. So one more reload. Usually takes me 5 or 6 reloads to get 5 Fortisols. And like I say, usually I'll get 7 or 8 Deceptisols in that time, which I usually don't need. Until late game, I probably would only use about 5 or 6 the entire game, and you'll pick up a lot more of those from treasure spheres and enemy drops randomly than you would than you do the Aegisols and Fortisols, which is why the Fortisols especially are the ones that you use a lot of. If you're doing this at home and unless you're familiar with this game, I would actually suggest getting about 7, just so you have some extra. You will pick up some, and there will be some in enemy drops, and 5 is probably all you really need, but 7's not a bad number. And again, if you use this technique and are going for the other shrouds as well, he didn't drop one that time. Alright, so I'm going to do this right this time. We're going to do this Scandroid fight, hopefully get a Deceptisol out of it. One of the reasons that I like to do this fight, even though it doesn't drop to the thing that I'm really looking for, is they do seem to have a higher drop rate for the Deceptisols. But more importantly, they have very limited fields of vision, which is useful to get the preemptive strike that I've been consistently getting against them. Deceptisol? There we go. Got a Deceptisol. So we got at least 2 Deceptisols. Now, instead of fighting this Pantheron fight, I'm going to do this right, and we're going to go back here. And watch where that first Pantheron spawns. It's right, if you look at my track on the map there, where you can see where I ran from the red X up there, where I just fought that battle. It spawns right at the top of, right at where the little break there is. It spawns right past that in that little area. If you watch that spot on the map while I go over here, see that come back, that red dot come back, that means that it respawned. So that's what you're looking for. And here it is again. Otherwise, if you didn't use that trick, like I say, you can save and reload the game, but that takes longer. Or you would have to go a lot farther. Most places, one of the reasons this is the prime spot to do it in the game is, number one, the enemies aren't tough. Especially when you're only fighting one of them. And if Vanille and Hope can take out an enemy, well, we got 2 more chances yet. We got this fight, and then we'll get that other fight to respawn again. You know, if Hope and Vanille can manage to take down an enemy with physical attacks, you know the enemy is, you know, basically just for the fun of it. Since we're doing this fight, let me just show you one interesting thing. These fights, as another good reason, when I was talking about how the combat system works and why it's not really Mash X. So we do one full bar like that, and see how her bar has 3 segments? What I did there was I used just the first segment of her bar. I didn't let it bother to charge all the way up because I knew I didn't need it. Looking at the enemy's health, I could tell that one more attack, knowing that I had already staggered it, Every time you fight this particular enemy in this area, you can do that. With Hope and Vanille, their first full turn will stagger the enemy, and then instead of waiting for the entire ATB bar to reload, you can just let that first segment load, and then hit the triangle button, or on Xbox 360 it's the Y button. So you just hit whichever appropriate button it is to expedite your action, so that it doesn't wait for the entire thing to load. It just does that action that's already queued up. That's what I was talking about when I was talking earlier about the got a Decepticol. Didn't get what I was looking for, but hey, that's 3 Decepticols. That's probably going to be enough for me for the entire storyline until I can actually buy them. And hopefully when I do this, watch again, and it should respawn here. There it goes again. So as long as you fight another battle in between, this thing will respawn. As a speedrunning tactic, you wouldn't want to do it. It's faster to reload. As far as playtime is concerned, the recorded playtime is faster to do it by loading or saving and reloading. And in this area, you're not getting any extra. You're not getting any experience in this area. You don't get any experience from anything until... And there's the last forestall we need, so I don't need to save and reload again. Let me just verify that I got what I think I got. Yep, 5 forestals, and we've got 3 Decepticols, so yeah, it's more than I'm going to need for a while. So we can move on. That went a lot faster than it usually does. By the way, I have not been going through these privates just like I haven't been going through the tutorials. If you actually want to play the game and you haven't played it before, you're going to want to read these. But there's no sense in me reading them to you, because you don't care about that. All you care about is watching me play and hopefully listen to me talk a little bit, because I do a lot of that, in case you can't tell. So, again, these are the enemies that I was talking about, that it's really easy to get a preemptive strike. When you get a preemptive strike, it will automatically fill their stagger gauge, or their chain gauge, so that one sufficiently powerful attack, basically one attack, will automatically put them into staggered, which in this area it's not a big deal. There's nothing here that really matters defensively, whether it's staggered or not. So, but in other areas, that's actually useful, and that's what the Decepticons are used for. In this area, it doesn't really matter. Like I said, even these are the toughest enemies that you're going to face with just Vanille and Hope. So, I mean, like I say, this is watch this again, where they both did their full set of attacks, and it puts the first Pantheron into stagger. 2, 3. Hope attacks again, puts it into stagger, and now its health is so low that I know, based on how much damage I typically do and the fact that it's in stagger, that if I just expedite the first attack there, I can kill it every time. It's designed that way. We're gonna go get a couple cutscenes here.
Not so much.
You really don't get it.
Pulse Falsey and Lissy are bad news. That's why Cocoon kicked them out. Live too close to the Falsey, one-way ticket to Pulse. That's the purge in a nutshell.
If they catch us here, they'll purge us too. And
What's
then...
your problem?
What's my... Pulse is hell on Earth.
See, this area
Calm down.
is basically an emphasis of that conversation that they just had. Everybody
Can you hear me?
there, where this is taking place right now, has been told all their lives that Pulse is bad. Pulse is bad. Pulse Falsies are bad news. If you get too close to a Pulse Falsey, it'll turn you into a Pulse Lassie. What that means, I'm not going to spoil for you right now. But
Don't worry, Sarah.
that's the emphasis of this entire first chapter of the game. And the reason that the purge is going on, again, not going to spoil the actual reason, but it's associated with that concept. And that's what that little bit of conversation there is set out to explain, or begin to explain. So now we're back to Snow. What I was saying earlier, what was I saying earlier? Oh, we were talking about the fact that they're designed to die a certain, way. But that's the idea that I was talking about with not being really a mash X. You still have to, if you want to optimize your experience and do things efficiently and enjoy what I think the system really has to offer in this game, you really can't just mash X to win. You can, but and most of the time it'll be fine till you get into like larger scale battles and bosses that, if you just use that approach to the entire game, you're going to be so frustrated with that, it's not going to matter anymore. So this section of the game kind of goes between parties, back and forth. And the sections with Snow
No problem.
are kind of pointless. They're just more in there to establish that Snow is there too. Because all of this whole thing that I just came down and through, all of these side paths, there's nothing on them. And I started to say earlier, this chapter of the game, you are not earning experience. You can fight all the battles you want. You don't get anything from them other than the item drops. Which is why it's such a good place to, early on there, where we were grinding for the Forsalls. That makes it such a good place to do it. It's convenient for speedrunners because that save point is right there. And it's convenient for everybody else because the drop rate for those Fortisol, Aegisol, Deceptisol, those are all called shrouds in this game. There's a primer that comes up on it later that I will skip through. But basically they're all called shrouds because you use them right before a battle and they shroud you with a certain set of status effects. A fixed set of status effects. So they're a great place to do that here. And now we're seeing that Lightning and Saz are in the same place. So they're finally all in the same, smaller area than they were before. Earlier we had that cutscene where Lightning was also saying that her target is the Pulse Fal'Cie.
This is my fault.
So she's after the same thing. We don't know why Snow is here. Although the cutscene just a few minutes ago...
Alright, go for it! Make it happen!
Cutscene just a little bit ago.
I'm so sorry. Please let me in. Please?
Where Snow was yelling Sarah. That's the only thing we know. Combine that with the cutscene before that when he takes off to head over here, where they're telling him, go say hi to the wife,
After you.
etc. So it sounds like he's here to find somebody. So he's here to find somebody. Lightning is here for the Pulse Fal'Cie for some reason. Saz is just tagging along with her because for some reason he doesn't have a choice. Hope and Vanille are here to get to find Snow so that Hope can confront him or whatever he's going to do. So now we have a little bit of an idea. That was the primer on Shrouds that I was talking about. Again, you don't care about that. All you care about is me playing the game. I'm going to save because some things have happened and I don't want to go through it all again. Especially since I didn't actually save after I got that last Fortisol. So now we've got them all in the same place. We know that they're all here for a reason except Saz is kind of just along for the ride, and I guess technically Vanille is at this point too. She's here for moral support for Hope, and because if she hadn't come, then Hope wouldn't have bothered. But what's interesting here is that, and I had never realized that until this point, but it actually takes longer for Saz and Lightning to stagger these enemies with their basic attacks than it does for Hope and Vanille, which is interesting because you saw how underwhelming Hope and Vanille's attacks were. Kind of gives you a clue of their roles later. One of the things about the different types of attackers in this game, the ones that do typically all like just straight up brute force damage, have less impact on raising the chain gauge than casters do. So I never noticed this until just now, but they actually kind of point that out here a little bit if you're paying attention. Doesn't really matter. You're going to figure it out much more efficiently sooner or later. Kind of sooner, to go through Chapter 2. It's interesting. Alright, so more of these things. I don't think I was far enough into their range. Yeah, so normally I would have gotten a preemptive strike from that attack. However, there's a little programming bug in this game that if you are not quite in the full range of where the enemies would be able to see you, quote unquote see you, I'll show you when we do this next fight. But if you're not quite in their range and you would have earned a preemptive strike, if it didn't register that you were in their range, you don't get the preemptive strike. So when I walk up on these guys, so like right now the screen is, actually that's the trigger effect that I was looking for. So right now the screen is like its normal, the mini-map especially is its normal little blue color with the dots and everything on there. If I step a couple steps in here, you get that red flash. And they get their little warning symbols over their heads saying that they've seen you. That red flash is the sign that you're looking for, that you're in somebody's range. And then if you can do the same thing here, I got the red flash, and then I hit them without them getting those warning symbols over their head. So now I got a preemptive strike. So what I was talking about there was that if you earn a preemptive strike without the system giving you that red flash to let you know you were already in their range, there's a little glitch in there that does not give you the preemptive strike, which, you know, no big deal, but sometimes it is a big deal. And now we get to fight another one of these things. Ugh. I hate these things every time I run into them. They're not the most annoying enemy in the game, by far, but it's always a long, tedious battle. And, you know, I have to blame a little bit of that on what I was talking about before Seth dies. Because Lightning can't really take this out by herself. I mean, she could, but it'd be even more grindy, and I don't want to use these down. Anyway, I have to blame that a little bit on what I was talking about in the last video where I was talking about the development decision to restore your health after every battle. So, you know, I have to blame the fact that those enemies are always annoying. They're always a little bit grindy, just to kill them when they're not even, you know, ever really boss enemies. Let's see. Okay, so this is all one encounter, which means I'm not going to get a preemptive strike on it anyway. May as well take out. Sure. Probably smartest to do it that way. Just get the damage out of the way. I was expecting that to do normal attacks instead of the blitz there, but whatever. Oh, you know what else I forgot to do? I don't think I ever equipped Snow's new weapon that we got before we got to this area. Well, I'll do that next time I get to him. The reason I thought of it is because we just got a new weapon for lightning. So, in the top right-hand corner here, we have the effect of what's going to change if I equip a certain thing. Right now, with this weapon, her stats are split between strength and magic 30-30. Right now, she's only a physical attacker. We don't have any magic. So, I'm going to switch this to the Gladius for now, so that it gives her the extra boost to strength. To be honest, I would probably have done that anyway, even if she did have magic, because it was only a 2-point drop in magic for a 10-point increase in strength. So unless she was going to be only casting, which she's never going to be only casting, then, you know, I would, in the economics field, we call it comparative advantage. The only reason I would not have used that weapon is if I had some items that were in the same item class as that weapon. There are what they call synthesis groups, that if you bundle certain classes of accessories and weapons together, or just accessories, they will produce certain effects on your character. One of the ones we're going to get later in the game, Chapter 11, gives you permanent auto haste and one full ATB bar gauge, actually full ATB bar filled before when you start each battle, which obviously gives you a significant advantage. And that you do by way of synthesis. We're actually picking up a lot of Decepticells right now. We still only have the 5 Force Cells, but we're up to 5 Decepticells already. And again, that's more than I'm going to need for quite some time.
If those things are still around, might be some soldiers trapped in here too. Except they'd probably be l'Cie by now. Huh? Not even human anymore. Just post-l'Cie. Enemies of Cocoon. Can't show them any mercy.
So, again, they're stressing the fact that post-l'Cie are bad. They're automatically enemies of Cocoon, which is the area that everything is taking place in right now. You'll get more of a picture of that later, but again, there's a treasure ball behind me. Nothing on the other paths to the side. And once I get this, I'm going to upgrade Snow's weapon. But again, they're stressing the fact that anything from Pulse is bad. And it just has to be an enemy of, where they are.
Nothing to worry about.
The other thing I don't like about, the thing that I don't like about Snow's area of attack ability here in this first chapter, his hand grenade, is that he always throws it behind the targets.
How about this?
Which, I mean, that makes sense, sort of. But if he tossed it closer to the targets, then it might actually be a useful AoE attack. But unlike Lightning's Blitz, which does a sweeping attack right, around her, the hand grenade has a much more variable area that it might end up actually affecting. I mean, that makes sense. You swing a sword around you, you know what area it's going to hit. You toss a hand grenade, you don't
All
necessarily
right.
know. So I mean, it makes sense from a development standpoint, but I'm glad that we only have it for this chapter because it's useless. If that was his common area of effect attack
Hang on, baby.
throughout the entire game,
Your hero's on the way.
then that would be really annoying. So that made it even more obvious that Snow's here
Hang
to
on, baby. Your hero's on the way.
find and sounds like maybe rescue this Sarah person. By the way, in case you're not aware, that Sarah reference is an homage to the original Final Fantasy, where the princess of the first town that you're in is named Sarah,
He's coming our way.
and with the same spelling, Serah.
Tell him what you need to.
And the first quest that you're on in Final Fantasy, in
nothing
the
I
original
say
Final
will
Fantasy,
change
is
what
to
happened.
rescue Sarah from an evil knight, Garland.
We could just run away.
So if you're a modern day player that has not played the ancient Final Fantasies, they are all available. They are all available on PS3 now, with the exception of the Final Fantasy III, true Final Fantasy III, like Japan's Final Fantasy III. That one is only available for PSP and PS Vita. Actually, I'm not positive about Vita. I know for PSP, but and DS. But they are all available at this point. But anyway, yeah, little known fact, if you weren't aware of the fact that that was an homage. Even because a lot of people I know got into the Final Fantasy series around the time of Final Fantasy VII and might not have ever gone back and played some of the older games. And then you get even like major industry people that have never played a Final Fantasy game. I can't remember who it is from the know. I think it was Ryan. Was it Ryan or was it Adam? I think it's Ryan. That had never actually played a Final Fantasy game before Final Fantasy XV. Which I found interesting because Final Fantasy is such a long-running franchise and so like beloved, or it used to be, so beloved in the industry that it surprises me that people whose jobs is analyzing the video game industry and talking about games and playing games for a living. That'd be so much fun. Anyway, it's interesting to me that people still exist in that category that have never played a Final Fantasy game. And there's another Vial of Fortisol, so I'm guaranteed. I forgot I was guaranteed that one. I mean, you're guaranteed a bunch of them throughout the game, but if we go back this way, we will end up just doing a giant loop. If I look at the map here, you can see that that save point there in the middle of my little arrows there, that's the save point that we were right next to when we loaded the game. If we were to jump, actually we can, there's no reason why I can't. If I go over here, that's the bike that we came in on. So if you wanted to, if you felt like it, you could go around and around and around in this area and fight things. And if you're not familiar with the system, it's not a bad idea. Although by now, there's not much more than in this area. It kind of is press X to win for the most part. But if you want the practice, especially if you want the practice expediting the attacks on the Pantherons with this party, because you're about to lose this duo, it's going to become a trio. So if you want practice and you're not familiar with the system, you want practice with the intricacies of it, with the way, the methodology of expediting attacks and getting the feel of how much damage your characters do, then there's no reason why you can't go around and around. The battles will just keep respawning as you go around. Eventually you have to come back here, and that little yellow cursor on my mini map at the top is the directional arrow for where the next story objective is. So we're going to follow that because I don't need to do that, and I'll remind you as well that you're not gaining anything here other than items. You will shortly, once we get into Chapter 2, which is not going to be this episode. I can tell you right now, there's too many cutscenes between now and then, and there's only about 10 minutes left in the stream. So we'll probably get to the boss fight, but we will not do the boss fight. We're going to go up here, fight these guys. Another thing with these treasure spheres, if there are enemies in a certain radius around them, a set radius, obviously they're scripted. Every battle in this game is scripted. Or at least the enemies are scripted. If you're within a certain radius around them, see, and I just did the exact opposite of what I've been talking about. I should have expedited that one attack so that I can focus on the second one faster, but my bad, I was talking. Oops. So, there we go. We were talking about the fact that you can go around. I totally lost what I was talking about. I don't remember. It wasn't that important. Another cutscene. Now these are an entirely new enemy, and they are actually, well,
What are they?
I wouldn't say they're unique to this game. They are in a sense.
This is what happens when the sea don't complete the
They're basically the
Sea
equivalent
gave
of
them.
zombies in previous games.
Let's even these odds.
Hey, look, they found snow. Sort of. So even though you're surrounded by these things, you only have to fight 3 of them. And Snow's now your leader. So a little bit more, I was going to say more HP, but he actually has the same amount of HP as Neil. Although he does have a higher defense. Not that it matters. As you can see, these things are so weak that it's, pointless.
How did you get in here? You gotta leave. Okay, listen. Find some place to hide and keep quiet. Once I find Sarah, we'll all leave together. You'll be home in time for dinner.
You...
Wait! Who's Sarah?
My wife. Future wife, that is. She's a pulse Lassie.
No.
She's here somewhere, along with that Fal'Cie. I gotta find her and set her free.
What's wrong with you? Why do you want to help a Lassie? They're the enemy.
Huh.
How can you save a Lassie? You're not... That's insane!
So Hope wants to confront
Probably.
him, but he just doesn't know quite how to do
Something,
it.
right? I'll be back.
But the interesting part of that is that we just found out that Snow is here to save somebody that he's been told for, like, ever.
Why is this happening to me?
Ingrained in...
When they found the Fal'Cie the other day, we were just visiting Bodum. But the army took us. Threw us on that train. Because of that guy, Mom is...
Probably shouldn't leave them alone.
And he wants to help Lassie?
Hey again.
Hey. Let's go
See,
with him.
and that right there is why I love this game.
You gotta talk to him, Hope. If you don't take this chance, you regret
Hope sitting there moaning and groaning because of
Okay.
the fact that he can't decide
Let's go.
what he needs to do. And Snow, at the same time, is conflicted between his, his gung-ho, I can do anything because I'm a hero. Go save somebody who's, unsavable.
Thought you came for a fight.
And, by definition has to be
My
out to
sister.
destroy the world that I know.
She's a Lassie.
What? A pulse, Lassie?
Yep.
The Fal'Cie has her captive, but I'll find her.
Is she still... Hey, what was her focus? When she became a Lassie, what did the Fal'Cie order her to do? It wasn't blow up Cocoon or anything like that, was it?
I didn't ask.
Listen to me. When a person gets cursed by a Fal'Cie, they become a Lassie, and they get given a focus, right? How do I put this? If they don't carry it out, Lassie end up as one of those things. What I'm saying is, if your sister's gone that far, I mean, she might still... How can I... Oh, man. There's no way to turn a Lassie back into a human. Even if she completes her focus, there's no changing her fate. She'll live her life as a Fal'Cie slave. Don't make her suffer.
Just say it! Any Lassie, anyone who might ever become a Lassie should be wiped off the face of Cocoon. It's people like you that started the Purge in the first place.
So there you have it, folks. Both Snow and Lightning are here for the same purpose. We don't know if it's the same person. We know that it's Lightning's sister and Snow's fiance, but that's really all we know. But again, this whole purpose of this is pointing out the fact that all of these people believe that Pulse is bad. Anything from Pulse is bad. Anybody touched by a Pulse Fal'Cie is bad. Even if they weren't Lassie before, automatically by becoming a Lassie, they have to be bad. So now we have the difference between Snow and Lightning, where Lightning is after the Fal'Cie that turned her sister into a Lassie to try to figure out some way to reverse the process. Or, given her mentality, probably try to destroy the thing and hopefully that'll, hope for the best. Whereas Snow is definitely here for his fiancée. He's here to rescue her somehow. That's his point. I was going to say focus, but that would be ironic considering that the whole thing is that once they turn into a Lassie, they're given a focus by the Fal'Cie that created them to do something. We don't know what that something is. Everybody on Cocoon has been told that by definition, if you're a Pulse Fal'Cie, your focus is to some way harm Cocoon. So they have to be enemies, and therefore they have to die. That's the whole point of those cutscenes. But like I was saying before about the development of the characters, you saw Hope in the opposite state of his, as his name would suggest, just totally like I just realized where I am. I'm sitting here in an area that's run by a Pulse Fal'Cie. I'm not supposed to be here. Things are going horribly wrong for me. My mother just died, and the guy who I think killed her, basically, is right in front of me, and he doesn't have a clue. And he's sitting here trying to save one of these Pulse l'Cie that are, you know, worthless and enemies. But he couldn't save my mom. So that's the state that you find all of these characters in here at the beginning of the game. We still don't know what Vanille's story is, and we don't really know Saz's story, other than the fact that somehow he knows all of this, and seems to know the interaction there that he just had with Lightning indicates that by the fact that she didn't deny anything that he said, that it's kind of common knowledge. All the things that he was saying about l'Cie, their focus, etc., etc. That was another Fortisol. I didn't know these dropped those. But you know, it apparently is common knowledge, because she couldn't come back with anything there. Now, whether it's what level of common knowledge it is, we don't really know. Hope obviously knows some of this, because he knows, you know, l'Cie equals a bad. But we don't know any more than that. And obviously Snow knows this too, because he's trying to rescue Sarah. And we don't even know at this point if Sarah is rescuable. In fact, even if she's not one of these horrifying zombie creatures, then Saz just has already written her off because of everything that they supposedly know. That, you know, it doesn't really matter at this point. Worst case, she's one of these zombies that we're just cutting our way through. Best case is that she completes whatever her mission is for the Fal'Cie, and then turns to crystal, whatever that means. Either way, you don't get her back. Which I think is why Lightning is more focused on trying to destroy the Fal'Cie than she is necessarily on trying to reverse what's already been done. She obviously has a bit of guilt for the fact that she didn't find out what her sister's mission was. We don't know why that is yet. Again, we will. Again, I love this storyline. All of the questions that you have in the early parts of the game are going to be answered. I can't think of a single loose end that this game leaves. It handles everything beautifully, which is why it didn't need sequels. When they announced 13.2, they actually... I remember when they announced 13.2, and I was actually excited about it. I didn't think it was necessary, because, like I say, this storyline fully wraps itself up. In fact, they have to retcon a little bit at the beginning of the... I'm going to stop this here again. They have to retcon a little bit at the beginning of 2 in order to explain why the story isn't done. And the reason they did that is because while this was always intended to be a trilogy, they weren't sure how popular 13 was going to be. And I think that might be part of the reason that people harp on it so badly. Because at this point, we know how popular 13 was when it came out. It was immensely popular. Yes, people had issues with certain problems that they viewed in it. All the things that I've already talked about. Well, almost all. There's some other things that'll come up later. But all of those are style things. The major points I've already discussed. So when they originally released 13, they had the other two games planned. But they had to do 13 as a standalone so that in case it didn't sell as well as they hoped, they weren't going to continue the franchise or the trilogy. And I think they would have been better off leaving it alone after this game. I think the problem was that they were working, because the one that they knew they were going to release was originally Final Fantasy XIII Versus, which has been, as everybody knows, turned into Final Fantasy XV. So it became a separate installment. But they were so far behind on that at that point because they were also working on Final Fantasy Agito, which became Final Fantasy Type 0 in the West. So at the time, they were going to release at least one more Final Fantasy XIII game, but it was supposed to be a completely different style than Final Fantasy XIII. It was supposed to be the action-based combat style of Final Fantasy XV. Specifically, if you've played episode Gladiolus, it was supposed to be that kind of a combat style. Even more action-oriented than the actual game ended up being. Personally, I was never real hooked on the idea of Final Fantasy XIII Versus. I didn't really care. But I'm glad they made it its own game. And I'm glad it was a decent game by the time they put it out. But that's a different topic. The fact is that 13, I think, is beautifully written. And I think they only watered down the potency of this game by creating 2 sequels to it that were unnecessary and, unnecessary from a story standpoint. Necessary from a standpoint of the fact that they had nothing else that they were working on that was anywhere near completion. As we know, Final Fantasy 15 took them 10 years to develop. 10 years? Yeah, 10 years to develop. It was in production from the time that it was Final Fantasy XIII Versus to the time that it was released. It was 10 years. Granted, I know the arguments, it wasn't really in development that entire time because they switched tracks entirely when they made it Final Fantasy 15. But that was still a ways off. They had just finished Final Fantasy XIV, and the original launch of 14 was a horror show. So many flaws with it. Personally, I never played 14 because 11 kind of turned me off to MMOs for a very long time. So I had no interest in 14 when it first came out. I did play A Realm Reborn when they redid 14, restarted the entire thing. So they went back to the drawing board on that. And like I say, they were still working on Final Fantasy. Their focus at the time was still on Final Fantasy Agito, Type 0. And that was not expected to be released for a while, at least in the West. So that's why they kind of had to push out Final Fantasy 13 too. And honestly, I still think 13-2 is a good game. But story-wise, I think it's part of the reason that there are so many people that think that 13 was not a good game. And so to end up the stream today, that's why I'm playing Final Fantasy XIII right now, to show you guys that as it stands alone, 13 is, like I say, I said it in the last stream, I think it's story-wise a masterpiece. Thank you for watching. If you like this, please, by all means, hit the like button. Share it with your friends. Subscribe to me so that you can see when I'm doing other footage and coverage and that kind of thing. This game, Tales of Graces, and Kingdom Hearts. And then whatever bonus weekend content I end up putting out. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed.